Hey, it's Don Skaggs again with Empowered Inventing, the one place where we try to help you help other people by taking innovations and opportunities, combining those two things, and turning them into real things like products and businesses. How do we do that? We do that by teaching you to do things in the right way that's going to bring you to those real things and not just always leave it a pipe dream. So, today, speaking of not wanting to be a pipe dream, let's talk about real things like prototypes. Now, if you're not familiar with what a prototype is those early models that you put together of your idea. And of those early models, you're seeing, is it going to be something that I can demonstrate to myself or can demonstrate to the market that it's going to work. And this is before you go into production. So these pre-production, and I'm talking about mass production, and mass productions can be anything from like 100 pieces to 1,000 to 10,000 of whatever it is that you make and eventually sell. So the prototypes, and most people know what prototypes are, but what we really do, and when I talk about prototypes, I really take them and put them into two separate categories, because really I separate these things out, because there's two versions of a prototype that you actually work on and build and use to move forward with your idea, your product, or your startup. And those two types, the first one we've talked about a whole lot. We've talked about it in other videos. We teach it a lot in classes, and that's what we call the Frankentype. And you've probably heard me say this word a lot of times. It's kind of a new word. It's one we made up, but it really fits, because that's where you've snuck out to the graveyard of broken products and spare parts. You've used glue sticks and duct tape. You've used that good old duct tape stuff. And you build it, and maybe it's ugly. Maybe it's just really ugly. Maybe it's pretty to you, but it's not pretty to anybody else, and it's not real presentable because it's just ugly. It's it's spare parts. It's wood instead of plastic. Maybe it's got all these different things on it that just doesn't make it very pretty. And that's okay, because you want to keep it really cheap. You want to use, that's why we say glue sticks and duct tape, because we want you to make this cheap. Why? Because you're going to have all of these iterations. Now, the one thing that a Frankentype does is it proves to you that it's going to work. Because you can be absolutely sure it works in your head. You can write it all out on paper. Oh yeah, I'm positive this is going to work. I've got it all written out. But until you turn it into a physical product, till you turn it into a Frankentype, prototype, you will not know for sure. And you're going to have a lot of these times where you're going to say, I didn't know it wasn't going to do that. Or, I didn't know it was going to do that. So you're going through all these iterations. So you don't want to spend a lot of money doing that. And we always teach that, and that's kind of background. Now, what I want to talk about today, though, is not the Frankentype, but that second phase. You've got the Frankentype going, and it is proven to you and you only that it works. And you've got all that humming, you've refined it, and you've said, okay, now I've got it to working, now I've got it to working better. And this isn't a big, long year, 2-year, 3-year, 10-year long process. I've seen people do that with their prototypes. Don't do that. These are fast iteration processes. But you've still taken the time, a short amount of time, but you've taken the time to work on this prototype and to refine it to where it's just humming. Now, at that point, you are ready to build what I call the Demotype. And the Demotype is very different from the Frankentype. It's different in the way that you have taken the Frankentype and proved it to yourself that it works. The Demotype proves it works to other people. So this is going to be a prettier model. This is going to be one, and the cool thing is that with the Frankentype and all these early iterations, these cheap iterations, glue sticks and duct tape iterations, all of those you have learned. It has taught you things about how it works and what you can do to make it easier or cheaper. Or you might start to think about, well, instead of just 3D printing a plastic box to put it in, maybe I can find a box that already exists out there, and I can use that. And I can make a good demo of it, and it would look like the finished product without me having to spend tons of money. Or God forbid, you've gone out and like had a mold made of something for a prototype that to go into this big production, and molds can be extremely expensive, thousands upon thousands of dollars. Don't do that if you're not ready, if you haven't built your Demotype yet to prove the market. No, find stuff that already exists. There's stuff out there. You can make things out of things that already exist, things that maybe would have never been used in your industry, and I love those things because those things have never been seen. So it's almost like something brand new, but it's something that's already being made and exists, and that makes up just a perfect Demotype. Do you want to build one of these power cords, or do you just want to buy them and make it fit onto whatever it is you're building or making? You want to, wow, dropping stuff now. You want to just use as many. Again, you want the Demotype to be on the cheap. Now, it's got to be pretty. It's got to be very presentable, and it has to work, just like your Frankentype worked. But you have to be able to do it frugally, because, and you might say, well, Don, why would I want to do that? I'm just going to build one and take it out there to the market. No, that's not going to happen that way. When you were building the Frankentype, it would fail. You'd say, I didn't realize it was going to do that. Well, now I'm going to have to change this. And you go and you destroy, you rebuild it, and then you try it again, you test it again. So it's like it's like build, test, destroy, build, test, destroy. You keep going through that process until that functionality is working perfect. With a Demotype, it's the same thing, except it's a different dynamic. Now you have one it's prettied up. Maybe it's cost a little bit more, but it's all prettied up. It's all gussied up, as the old folks like to say, and it is presentable to customers via videos. I'm going to talk about videos in just a second here, because Demotypes are very important for videos. But you've got this all presentable. But what's going to happen, instead of it failing in the functionality part, it's going to fail with your market. The customer's going to say, well, this is kind of cool, but I really don't care about this part over here. But this part over here, well, if you had one of these on it, then yeah, I'd pay extra money. So now you've got to go, oh gosh, I spent all this time and trouble, and I've got it all just perfect, and it's so pretty. And this is the harder part, because now you really feel like it's perfect. And you want to say, well, I don't want to change anything, it's perfect. Don't do that. Don't do that with a Demotype. Demotype is, again, you're building it, you're testing it, except you're not testing for functionality, you're testing with the market, and the market's going to tell you, no, don't do it that way, do it this way. And when the market tells you that, then you have to build it over again and then say, okay, well, what about this? Well, yeah, that's pretty good. I'd spend a little on that, but I'd spend a whole lot more if it had this other thing under here. And so you go back again after the market. When I say the market tells you these things, I'm talking about the market as a whole. So in other words, you're not just getting one person, one customer's opinion. You're getting an aggregate of information. There's lots of different ways to do that. We teach that in a lot of our classes. So anyway, use things that are on there that already exist. Don't reinvent the wheel with this stuff. You can make these things on the cheap. It doesn't have to be perfect either. So, well, I want this thing with my logo on this inside, and that has to be special made. And no, don't do that. Make it as plain vanilla as you can, because again, the customer is going to tell you things you would have never guessed that they would have wanted or would have not wanted. So that's what is so important about a Demotype. Make these on the cheap. There's going to be all these pass-fail iterations, and they're going to be driven by your customers, the people with the dollars that are going to give you certificates of appreciation called dollar bills. They're going to vote. Don't depend on what other people say. Depend on what people do, and what people do will say, yes, I'll buy this, and I'll buy it right now. So visibility is very, very important. Video ability is very, very important, and that's what the last thing I want to talk about is video. If you can make this where it's pretty enough, doesn't have to be perfect. Now it has to really work. You can't fake stuff in a video. Don't do that. If you fake stuff and you've not really proven it, there have been things that really crash and burn if you do that. If you tell somebody something that's not true or not proven yet, it will come back to bite you. Do not do that. But You get it all working, you get it all humming, and you just make it pretty enough to make it really presentable, and you put it in a nice video. That video becomes your calling card. That is the 21st century calling card now. That is your literature. You send somebody a link to your video, and they're looking at that, and they see it demoed, and they see how it works, and you got a wow moment in there. Again, we teach about how to pitch and how to do videos and that sort of thing as well. But you learn how to do that. That's what's so important about having a demo type. You just have to make one. Just have to make one that the customer likes. You've got all the iterations, but then you make it really presentable. You do it on the cheap, but you do it as best you can, and you make it a really good presentable product, and that will tell you if you have your market or not. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Again, I'm Don Skaggs. This is Empowered Inventing. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure and subscribe. Help us to build our tribe. Click that notification bell, and I will look to see you on the next video, the next online class, online meeting, or maybe one of our local workshops. We'll see you again soon.